All right, so level 4 is when we're going to work on frontal lines and lateral lines, okay? This is sort of off of the books of what the rest of our step pathway is, because there are things that need to be addressed, but they don't need to be cued and should not be cued, okay? So when we get to level 4, what we're trying to do is work the body to open up some pathways that our body, like kids' bodies in particular, tend to shut down from and change the way that their body operates in a throw. The biggest thing is, like, in terms of frontal line, our posture, our throwing posture is adversely affected by our standing posture, if our standing posture is bad. So if our standing posture is compensated, rolled in here and flipped up there, okay, or rolled back there, then we're going to be in a position where we automatically end up in what's called A posture. Okay, from a throwing standpoint, we've got A posture, which is like straight up here, arm there. B posture, which is more of that like sort of 3/4 action. And then C posture, which is straight up over the top. It's not an ideal necessarily to get everybody over the top, but what is the ideal is to improve guys' standing posture and the postures that they're able to take when moving at full speed, to allow them to get up if that's what their arm wants to do. The alternative is that everybody ends up forced down into A because they can't get extended thoracically here, okay? So that is why we're going to address the frontal line. We want guys to be able to extend thoracically here so that there isn't extended pressure on the elbow.
Yep, now we gotta say, here, why don't I jump in and say something really quick?
Okay. With me is Kirk Hughes.
So, what we see most of the time is that, like, when people are going to get into thoracic extension, they don't actually get into thoracic extension, they just extend like their lumbar like way more. So because they're already generally in lumbar extension, because they're in what's called anterior pelvic tilt, which is like my pelvis is kind of like this. You can see my lumbar bends to compensate like that. So instead of getting into thoracic extension, a lot of times people will get like that, and they'll get really, really big stomach like this. And as a result, they don't really actually truly get into thoracic extension, which would be like lengthening of like the pecs, right? So what we want to do is we want to get into thoracic extension when we're in more of like a posterior pelvic tilt or a neutral pelvis position. So we don't want to be here. We want this to be under, and we want to be able to get into thoracic extension with our pelvis like kind of tipped, like we're spilling water this way instead of spilling water this way, if that makes sense. So I'm going to pull the front side of my pelvis up, and then I will be able to actually truly get into thoracic extension, which is what we're looking for from athletes. We don't want a compensated thoracic extension. Now back to Aaron on lateral lines.
What are we going to say about lateral lines?
Just to say, like, we want to be able to get the arm overhead as well.
Oh, yeah, I got you. Okay. When it comes to lateral lines, okay, lateral lines are also important because it's the lateral line that allows us to get up and overhead here and plays a role in how we're going to move forward and how we're going to set the pelvis during that forward move. So if guys have lateral lines that are compensated, one part of the lateral line being too long and then another part of the lateral line being too short, it creates some difficulties with our ability to shorten and lengthen here, our ability to go forward and abduct, or our ability to get up and overhead, okay? So a number of things can be adversely affected in our moves by tight or uneven lateral lines. All of this has some effect on the way that the person's arm is eventually going to come through. So lots of arm action problems, arm slot issues, whatever we want to call them, arm timing, can be traced back to frontal and lateral line issues, because if there are some shortening or lengthening of different parts of the body, our arm is going to have to work around those things. Okay, so it's at this phase 4, or or
Level 4.
level 4, that we need to sort of even those things out because they're very difficult to discern necessarily piece by piece whether or not the person has a dysfunction of an over lengthening or over shortening of one part or the other. So just sort of across the board, we're going to address this movement because it will help everybody.
That is
Shakalaka.
That was really good.
That is just how you do that. It's how you